Comedy Film Nerds Podcast.
You guys saw Jim and Andy?
Yeah, so this is there's this really interesting documentary on Netflix. Jim Carrey documented when he played Andy Kaufman in
Man on the Moon. Mm-hmm.
And apparently this footage was like locked in his office and no one had seen it for whatever.
The studio didn't want it to get out because it makes Jim Carrey look like such an asshole.
Yeah, a raving
he got
asshole.
Really?
deep into the character of Andy and then even deeper into Tony Clifton, and he was treating people on set like shit and just abusing people.
Abusing them.
Starting fights.
Oh, yeah, and you can see, like, Judd Hirsch and these other actors, like, oh, God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were more mad with Jim Carrey than they were, like, remembering with Andy Kaufman.
Uh-huh.
So what they did is they put this together, and then there's, like, footage that was shot, I'm guessing, in the last year of Jim Carrey today in his beard talking all existentially about this
Is that what happens to comedians when they age? They grow giant beards?
Yeah,
what the-
giant gray
I
beards.
don't know what the giant beard thing is, why that's like I don't know, women cut their hair when they lose their shit, guys grow beards. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happens. But like
It's like Letterman's not going to be the only one. I'm doing it too.
yeah, we're all gonna look like fucking,
hillbillies.
Right,
Comedy
hillbillies.
hillbillies.
Like if fucking Luke Skywalker's living on an island with a crazy Jedi beard, then I guess these old comics need to do that.
Yeah.
So Jim Carrey is talking about he was in, and Andy Kaufman took me over, and it's kind of spiritual and stuff, but I was really torn. And so, I mean, there's some really cool stuff in there, obviously, because it goes back. Then there's you see.
Does it have the footage of him being an asshole on set?
That's the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's the whole movie.
Oh, wow.
It's those images, and people. Then like there's some like interviews with the cast from the 90s or whenever this was done, 98,
97?
97. Yeah, so it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of Jim Carrey today commenting on it.
Oh,
I was really
interesting.
torn. So, Brenton, what did you think overall about watching this? Because when I saw him be an asshole, I was so torn between this, like, oh, it's an artist, and he's really getting into the role, and then just fucking do your job. Just why are you going to be a dick? Just it's like that classic scene, that story from Marathon Man, where Dustin Hoffman, as the story goes, this is like Hollywood folklore. He's playing the character in Marathon Man with Sir Laurence Olivier, and he's putting weights on, and he's trying to like feel the weight of the world. He's being all method actor. And Sir Laurence Olivier goes, Mr. Hoffman, perhaps you might try acting. So like I'm watching Jim Carrey go, do you need to be an asshole in the makeup trailer? You know what I mean? So I don't know. What did you think?
I mean, in most cases, I would say just act. You don't need to do that. But since Andy Kaufman's a very special, unique situation, I love that he was starting fights with like Lawler, and Lawler actually injured him on the set of the movie. And the scene where he was when they were reshooting Letterman, and he's supposed to just fake hit him right before they said action. Jim leans over and says, "Really hit me, just hit me."
Really?
So he actually slaps him. And I thought that was great. Most of the time, it's like, no, just act, just do this. But because it was Kaufman, I love that he took it to the next level. And Kaufman's family was coming on set, and they were like, oh, my God, he's exactly Andy.
That was the stuff that
Wow.
was surreal, and that's why I was torn, because when that stuff, that's when I was like, wow, I'm glad he did this. Well, there's a scene
When Andy Kaufman's girlfriend is talking about, I can't tell the difference between the two of them, Jim's just killing it.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And like, there's a scene where Andy Kaufman's sister is like, I miss you. And Jim Carrey is apologizing to her as Andy Kaufman. Like they're having this moment because the family, because Andy was so crazy and out there, and then he gets sick and they didn't even believe that he was sick. I mean, there's those, and then the actors playing, like there's a scene where the actor that plays his dad comes into the makeup trailer when Jim Carrey's in the makeup trailer as Andy Kaufman, and he's Andy Kaufman in the makeup trailer. And the dad comes in, and they kind of have this out as Andy Kaufman and Andy Kaufman's dad.
Oh,
They had a
weird.
real argument.
They had a real argument. And the actor just came in as his dad and was like, Andy, I'm tired of this, and I just wish you would appreciate it. And then the makeup woman starts crying because, oh my God, it reminded me of that's how my dad, like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's when, to me, I was like, yeah, this is more than just some wingnut actor. Like, just fucking do your job. Stuff like that, I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because Jim Carrey doesn't do that on every film. He didn't do that on The Truman Show.
No. But he created real moments off camera that were as good, if not better, than the movie itself.
Yeah, and I think it's and according to Jim, he's like, I was just, Andy Kaufman was channeling himself through me. That's what he believes. And whether that's true or not, I mean, whatever, we'll never, like, how can you prove or disprove that? So, but it was amazing. And these moments did happen where you're just like, well, here's one of the things. This is where I kind of was like, stop being a dick. So he's antagonizing Jerry Lawler on the set as Andy Kaufman.
Right.
And Lawler eventually at one point just grabs him and is like, I can do this anytime I want. I can come at. But then they cut to Jerry Lawler going, in real life, Andy and I were friendly.
Right.
We just staged all this shit. And that's when I was like, oh, Jim, you're kind of fucking, that's not cool. Like, you aren't being Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, he was tormenting.
You're tormenting
Lawler.
Jerry Lawler that you don't need to, because in the real life, they were buddies and they would just get together and hang out and talk and then be like, hey, I'll hit you. Let's get into like they would stage the whole thing. So that's when I was like,
well, yeah, I mean, Andy Kaufman got so into professional wrestling, at one point.
Yeah.
Like, it was, it was an obsession of his.
Well, that's the cool thing too. They did it as far as just a documentary goes. Man, is it well made?
Yeah.
Because they did a great job of not just the footage that Andy had a camera crew take on the set from 20 years ago, but then they intercut all this archival footage of Andy Kaufman yelling at Jerry Lawler, the actual Letterman footage. Like, so they intercut a lot of, so it was just like
footage from Taxi, stuff like that.
Yeah, all that shit. And that was really cool. And it also really added to the surrealness of the whole, like, who the fuck is who? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, after a while, I was just watching the documentary going,
well, it sounds like this was an interesting documentary to the point where it was like already shot, hidden away, and then it needed a bunch of B-roll and some wraparounds.
No, Chris, you're absolutely right. What it needed somebody in present time narrating it. Explaining what was going on and what the thinking was at the time. I mean, there's a great thing in there where, so Milos Forman, he directed Cuckoo's Nest. Like, he's an amazing, and you see him getting so frustrated with Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey tells this story where Milos called him up and says, Jim, I just don't, Andy, and he had to, like, make this amazing director kind of kowtow to Andy Kaufman and Tony Clifton. And he's like, Jim Carrey in present day describes this phone conversation from 20 years ago in the middle of shooting where Milos calls up and goes, Jim, Andy and Tony, because he couldn't say, Jim, stop doing this. He had to refer to them as Andy and Tony. And he goes, these guys, they drive me crazy. I don't know how to do it. They're crazy, And Jim Carrey goes, well, Milos, we could fire those two guys, and then I could do an impression of Andy Kaufman and Tony Clifton. And he says there's a long pause, and Milos goes, no, I just wanted to talk to Jim. And so it's like, from an artist's point of view, he's like, I didn't want to just do mimicry or an impression or a two-dimensional impression.
What other industry would that conversation happen in? How ridiculous is that conversation? It's like
a lot of law firms having this conversation.
Yeah. Look, we're the electricians and the plumbers. We need to build this house.
Yeah. Can I talk to the a real electrician?
I could do an impression of a plumber. Oh my God! Now this really makes me want to see this movie
It's
because
worth-
it sounds like it's so surreal that like you're like I can't believe this actually happened.
Well, it's one of those documentaries that sort of brings you into this world that you weren't aware of, or maybe kind of were aware of it, and that's why it's a great documentary, and it shows you sort of the insanity of this world.
And I actually love that it came out 20 years after the movie because it kind of brings Andy back to life.
Yeah.
If it had come out a year after,
that was Andy's plan all along.
Well, yeah, that's the cool thing about it, and I agree with that too. It's anything that sort of keeps him alive.
Yeah.
Because the next generations, they don't know who he is. They didn't grow up watching Taxi.
No,
or
but I mean, I grew up watching Jim Carrey.
Right.
I was 10 when Man on the Moon came out, so I wasn't aware of that movie until years later. And now anyone who maybe missed it will go back and watch it.
Right. Yeah, and then anyone in your age or younger can not just watch Man on the Moon, but then dig deep and find Andy Kaufman doing like his comedy special. That one special he did where he had the desk like 10 feet above. That comedy special he ever did, have you ever seen that? Where he did this, the Andy Kaufman, and he was mocking late night TV hosts who make their chair or their desk just a little bit taller than their guests. So he's got a desk that's literally 10 feet above, and he's talking to, I forget the actress's name that played Shirley in Laverne and Shirley,
Cindy Williams.
Cindy Williams.
Yeah.
And she's amazing. She's doing a great job because she's in on the joke, obviously, but she's trying to just like she's looking up at this desk going, oh yeah, well, you've got a really good project, and it's just so ridiculous. It's like perfect Andy Kaufman where he's just mocking everything that he wanted to mock,
Right.
So yeah, that's really cool. So check it out, Jim and Andy.
If you like Andy Kaufman, you like Jim Carrey, and you like beards.
You like you like beards, and if you're just like a good documentary about some crazy shit, this is like this is the best one for that.
I shot first.